Hey everyone, this is part 2 of the Obsession commentary. Enjoy this episode of Talk Fantasy to Me podcast. So, in this next moment, right before Bear goes back into the house, he picks up the One Wish Willow box and on the back sees the customer service line and calls. And remember, this is when he tries to put in a wish cancellation request. And then the voice on the other line says, well, we actually don't do that. And then he kept trying to alter the wish, and they don't do that either. And then the voice on the other line says, well, you could kill yourself. I was dying, man. Yeah. Did you catch that voice on the other line was Curry Barker, the director of Obsession?
Oh, hell yeah. Right away. As soon as I heard that voice, I'm like, yep. That's Curry Barker, because I watch all of the comedy skits. I've watched them for forever. So as soon as I heard that voice, I'm like, yep, there he is. He's got to make a cameo somewhere. But he's like, yeah, we don't really do that. When he was like going back and forth, I'm like, but that scene too was the prototypical comedy that they do from their show. The back and forth, and he's like, oh, would you like to alter the wish? And he's like, yeah, can I do that? No, we don't really do that. He's like, then why'd you ask it? I just assumed that that's what you were going to ask me next. And you're like, fuck. That's straight from their comedy bit. So yeah, 100%.
And this is where, I keep saying Bear's a piece of shit, but this is a really big point here, especially like the canceling and alter of the wish, because he's almost okay with altering it in a way, not just straight up canceling it. So what do you think of Bear calling to alter the wish instead of canceling it? The customer service guy that we know as Curry Barker asked if he wanted to cancel it, and Bear said, being the piece of shit he is, I know I keep saying that, but truly we're starting to see that here and no longer feel sorry for this kid. He didn't want to cancel it, and he wanted to keep her in love with him. But maybe his idea was he just wanted to make her less crazy. What do you think his intentions were? Is he really a piece of shit like I'm saying? Or maybe he just didn't comprehend the question that was given to him? I want to give this guy all benefits of the doubt, but it's almost getting to the point all bets are lost after we keep seeing what he's doing.
Yeah, I mean, you really do want to give him the benefit of the doubt because you kind of just don't want to automatically assume that this guy's a piece of shit. But that's the point of his character, is like he just makes bad choice after bad choice after bad choice. And that's what makes the movie so full of tension too, is like his wrong decisions make you nuts as an audience member. But obviously in this one, I say he made the wish not knowing it would actually work and that this would happen. So I can't really put that entirely on him, but once he realized what was happening, he took full advantage of the situation, and that's when he became the monster in this movie. So him trying to alter it instead of fully canceling it is pretty much par for the course with his character. He's selfish and he still wants Nikki, but he's looking for a way to just make Nikki act more normal instead of scaring the shit out of him all the time. And that's something really interesting about this movie too that I just thought of is Bear is always acting like he's the victim. He's always like, you're scaring me, Nikki. You kissed me first. There's consent there. Like, blah, 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 whatever. He's no victim, dude. His ass is the perpetrator. All of this is happening because of him. So I think him wanting to alter the wish instead of just cancel it is another reason why he's a monster and why he's the villain in this movie. But I think about it a lot too of okay, if you were in this situation, what would you do? Because it's not so simple. We're in the audience watching, It's what would you do? What do you think about this?
Well, I think that kind of leads us into the next moment for what would I do, because I understand that point of mind second guessing yourself here. Like maybe you don't truly understand the situation. You're kind of freaked out. Like, is this really kind of happening? Is it really even the wish at this point? But then you get into this next point, and this is going to back up my answer for you, is the guy on the other line asks him if he wants to talk to Nikki. And I got some questions about that, too, in just a minute. And you hear her screaming. If I hear someone being tortured and fucking screaming on the other side, whether I know what the situation is or not, even if I didn't think it was Nikki or whoever the fuck it was, I would know this isn't a good situation. So maybe I just shouldn't keep asking these things and just figure out how the fuck I should get out on my own is kind of what I would do. And that's probably what I would do thinking about just going on adrenaline reaction because an actual good person, and this is where I do say I don't like it's almost like I really don't like Bear's soul. Like I hate to say that for the
Yeah.
person he is. Because if you think about a person that's actually just a down to earth good fucking person, it doesn't matter who it is. Like you instantly get that thought in your brain if you hear someone screaming or if you're in a bad situation, almost like if there's someone coming up to mug you or something. There's some sort of sixth sense or gut instinct you have that this is wrong. And the problem is that I have with him is he has that it's not like he doesn't have that instinct. He's just been questioning it all along, but he wants something so bad to the point he is obsessed. He doesn't care. It's like the person that's obsessed with shoplifting is really what it is. You can tell them not to shoplift over and over, and their conscience will tell them, hey, I can't do this. I shouldn't do this. But in the end, they still end up taking bags from Target in the self checkout line and they let them keep fucking doing it. And then they get taken in because they have like $7,000 worth of shit they stole and they got caught the next time. Like, that's kind of what's happening here with this guy. So it's very hard for me to feel sorry for him. My question here is two. So let's think from the beginning, though. The first thing this guy says is, do you want to talk to Nikki? How do you think this guy even knows Nikki's name? And then Nikki screams, right? And my first thought is she's like in hell or something. Like this is some evil dead shit going on, is what's fucking going on here. And I know you haven't seen much of this show, but there's this show called Has Been Hotel. The
Mm.
guy on the other line reminded me of Alistair. Funny because people that follow our channel, Kern, always tell me I look like Alistair in human form because it is kind of funny the way the cartoon works out when they show him in human form. But he runs the hotel in hell. He's not like the official Satan, but he welcomes damned souls, and which is why he always says, so you want to make a deal? This is kind of
Interesting.
what this guy reminded me of because maybe he's not necessarily Satan, but he's trying to get answers from Bear at this point. Do you want to alter a wish? Do you want to cancel a wish? And it's like the same thing Alistair says, like, well, we really can't do that. Like, you're still damned to hell.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that, man. So, what's your thought? Is Nikki in hell? Is this guy Satan? Who is this guy? Or is it even supposed to be interpreted that way?
I don't know. You know, my first instinct when I watched it, I was like, well, first thing kicked in, I was like, how does he know Nikki's name? Because Bear never said Nikki's name in that entire conversation. He could have been anyone who made a wish about a girl that he wanted to love him and now she's obsessed with him. But like the fact that he knew exactly who he was talking to on that line and that he knew exactly the girl that he was referring to in that conversation that Bear was referring to, it makes you think, okay, obviously it's obviously something supernatural. Is he the devil? I don't know because even Curry Barker himself said it's not really a possession movie, but when you have a scene like this that sounds like someone's being tortured in hell, and then you have a guy who seemingly knows exactly who you're talking about, even when you didn't mention their name, yeah, it kind of is very reminiscent of hell, and you can see why people would say this is an actual possession movie. Which it is. It's just, is it demons? Is it the devil? I don't know. Or is it some form of witchcraft, which I guess you could say is adjacent to all that, the devils and the demons and stuff. So I don't know, dude. When she's shrieking and screaming, I was like, yeah, she's for sure being like tortured in hell. But it could have also been she's inside of her own body. And immediately I think of the sunken place from Get Out. And I'm like, maybe she's in the sunken place, like within her own body. And she's just like, viewing things as a second, like a passenger in her own body, and that's torture in itself. So maybe she's not necessarily in hell, but she's like on pause in her own body and not able to control any of it, I don't know. That's the part that's like it's still eating at me because he says it's not devil demon possession, but it very much comes across that way. But I think it's also a little bit of like that voodoo doll type of shit. Like that wish basically is like you just cast a spell on her and now she's kind of being held prisoner inside of her own body somewhere, some way. I don't know if he's the devil, but he's definitely some sort of supernatural character. And I think it's really funny that you brought that up because he could just be like, he's just the hell's customer service agent. It's like, you want to go to heaven? Yeah. Well, sorry about that. We don't really do that here. So like, time to get tortured. It's like that kind of. I feel like that's probably what he is. He's probably more so the concierge of hell. So or whatever, wherever she's trapped. But I don't know, man. They don't really answer it either. So
That's exactly what I was thinking too. It's like, imagine that dude. That's so fucked up. They ask him, they're like, "Hey, I would like to take the route to heaven." He's like, "Okay, we'll walk right through that door," and then they come right back and like transforms right back in front of him. He's like, "Bro, you missed the flight a long time ago. This doesn't go to heaven at all, man.
yeah,
Heaven was in
tell me
that
you go through
past
that
life
door.
of yours."
Yeah.
So here's the question then before we move on to this next scene. Maybe I'm being one-sided for judging Bear as much as I do for calling him what I call him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I try to keep an open mind and always give people the benefit of the doubt, but I feel like his actions are starting to speak for himself, which we know they get worse and worse. What's your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, it's really tough, and this is what's so fascinating about this movie is that as a viewer, as an audience member, you're watching this stuff happen. It's not you, it's not your life, you're not in that situation. But if you put yourself into Bear's situation, how many of you do you think would actually make the right choices? Like, how many think that they would do different than what Bear is doing? Everyone's probably thinking to themselves, "Oh, well, I would have just offed myself to save Nikki, or else or I wouldn't have made the wish in the first place." Well, hindsight is always 2020. Like you look back and you know now after watching the movie that obviously making the wish was the wrong move because it was real. But most of us, just like Bear, would probably go and make that same wish and like you don't expect we go to like fountains and toss coins into fountains, and how many times does that wish come true? You make wishes on shooting stars. People snap twigs. You do the wishbone. There's all kinds of things that people use to make wishes. You don't actually think most of the time anything's going to come from it. It's just a fun kind of thing that people do. And I think Bear was in that similar situation. He was just in love with this girl. He's like desperate to let her know that he loves her, but he's also so scared to tell her because he's not used to being with girls at all. He's just kind of a weird, awkward dude. And so he goes and snaps this toy he bought at a fucking gift shop with a quirky woman working behind the counter. So you don't expect it to work. And then it does. And I think it's realistic in the sense that how long would it take you to really realize that it was your wish that came true? Because it's so unbelievable that like to wrap your own mind around it, I think would be almost impossible. You'd be like, there's no way. This is all coincidence. Like there's no way that's actually happening because shit like this isn't real. At least we don't think it's real. And so I think they do such a good job of making this feel so real in terms of like, yeah, Bear, he kind of looks like an asshole. He is the villain. He makes really bad choices. And I think what makes him like mostly the villain is what he says when he's in that car with Nikki and he talks about he doesn't know the difference between love and romance. He gets mad when Nikki's saying that she's going to leave work and take she's putting in her 2 weeks. He like clenches his jaw and he gets pissed off. But the worst part is when Nikki's asleep and he's like, I know it's a little bit later in the movie, but like he's basically saying, I don't like what's so bad about being with me, that kind of shit. Like the things that he says like that make him a really bad person. Obviously his actions make him a really bad person too. I'm not defending Bear by any means. Like, no, I'm just trying to look at it as like you put yourself into his shoes and you want to say I would make all the right choices, but would you? And I think of the same question people ask about and like Nazi Germany. And I know I'm not trying to go there, but like, when people say, "Oh, I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have done this." Like, how do you know that? If you grew up in Germany, then the odds of you doing those things and believing those things are much higher than you probably want to admit to yourself, because those people are being fed all kinds of propaganda. So you could look at it that way as well in this scenario. Like, would you make those same choices? Unfortunately, I think a lot more people would probably make those choices. Would they go as far as Bear? Like, just saying, like when she lied about her dad and he's like, it doesn't matter to me, let's fuck. Like, would everyone do that? I don't think so. I'd like to hope not. But you never know. I mean, and like you kind of go through all these things that he's been through so far in this movie. How much of that would you say, like, he's kind of making it up in his head, like this can't be true, like she actually does love me, because he spent so much time loving her or thinking he loves her, but he's really like lusting after her, that he finally has her now, and he's like, how do I rationalize this? And I think it gets really difficult for someone like in his position, where he finally gets the girl to think that it's not real. And so like that part of trying to rationalize, like, no, she really likes me. So there's a war going on in his own mind. And I think, I'm not saying sympathize with the guy for, like, no, don't get me wrong there. I'm just saying that if you look at it from that perspective, you can kind of come to more of an understanding of like, he's very human. Like, these mistakes that he's making are really human, although pretty dark and fucked up. So like, that's my long-winded answer for for Bear.
Yeah, I mean, it's still hard for me to give him any sort of sympathy because I think you
And I'm
made the
not.
reference.
I'm not.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
no, I totally understand what you're saying. I think the problem is in my mind is still comes down to I understand like when you're fed propaganda, or a lot of people don't realize they're in a cult because you're just fed the same shit over and over until they're
Yeah.
actually like they just go along with it, right? Like you could see someone murdered in front of you and you're just like
That
they
didn't
wouldn't
happen.
do that. Yeah, like you
They
know what
wouldn't
I
do
mean?
that.
Like but for me, I think that's where it comes down to almost your moral soul. Like something in you
Yep.
would tell you like something's not right. Like something's not right about this. Like I shouldn't keep going along with this. And that's where it really comes down to, in the words of Drake, devil on my shoulder, Lord as my witness. You know, what are you gonna do?
Just
But
dropping fucking Drake
yeah.
lines.
So when Bear comes back in, Nikki's standing in the middle of the floor, sweat everywhere, looking like she has had a fever or the flu or something. And Bear is kind of freaked out. He's like, what's happening? What's going on? Are you okay? And she says, I think I had a stomach bug or something, but I'll go clean up. I'll go clean up. And she goes to clean up and gets in the shower. And as he's talking to her, remember, he's like, I think I'm going to go to Ian's party tonight. But as she's like, okay, and really is kind of pissed about it, you have the haunted kind of soundtrack in the back with the banging, and she starts to scream. You notice Bear looks towards like the rug or the carpet, whatever's there. And I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was like vomit and shit. It looked like there was fecal matter on the carpet from where she had just stood there all day waiting for him to come back home. What was that?
Fucking gross is what it was. Because she had like, it was like all globbed on her mouth and down her shirt, all over the floor. I couldn't tell. I was like, did she eat shit like off the ground? Because I thought it was poop when I first saw it, but I think it was vomit. I think it was like just vomit, because it was all coming out of her mouth and stuff like that. So I think it was puke, but I don't really know. I don't know what that is. I still I've had a hard time figuring out what that is, because like she peed earlier, Exorcist style, and now she's puking. So I'm like, is that? I think it literally is her. Just, she doesn't want to leave that spot because she doesn't want to not miss Bear coming through the door. Like she's literally waiting, like a dog who's really upset that their owner's leaving. So I think that that's what it is. And like she's starving herself. Like she's probably not eating. And so she's just standing there and like puking and shitting and pissing on the rug because she's not moving. She doesn't want to get out of that spot. So I think that that's probably what it is. but I'm not 100% sure. What do you think?
Dude, I thought it was fecal matter. In the words of Johnny Depp, it looked like human fecal matter. It was bad, man.
Damn, Chase.
Looking at what was on the ground, I've never seen vomit look black like that. Unless it was she was vomiting up a demon as if it was something in The Exorcist. I don't know what that was.
Well, I mean, if you eat something discolored, it can come up, it comes out the same color. It could also be bile. It could, I don't know what it was, dude. Like it literally could have been something to do with the wish as well, like some sort of whatever spell she's got on her. Maybe some of that came out. Like, she puked some of it up. I don't know, man. It looked like shit. It looked like vomit, and it looked like piss. So I couldn't tell. It was like all mixed together and disgusting looking. I couldn't tell exactly what it was, but I'm gonna guess it was either puke or poop, because you had pee the first go around, so shit would make sense for the next one. But then I was like, but why would it be on her mouth? Like, I don't think she was eating it, but I don't know. Like, if she's standing there all day and she shits on the rug and then eats it because she's not going to get real food, maybe that's a possibility. I don't fucking know. Like, when she's cleaning herself up too, and he asks her, he's like, did you cook the cat? Like, why did you cook the cat? And she's just like playing off like nothing, everything's fine. And then when he asks her about the like, I think I'm gonna go to Ian's party. Well, I can go with you. He's like, no, it's he just wanted me. It's like just a guy's night. And she's like, rah! And you hear the mirror shatter.
Yeah.
I don't. Did you notice that?
That's a good point. I didn't really think about it until now, but that's interesting.
You hear the mirror break in there, and I'm like, that's interesting, because your favorite theory, and the one that everyone seems to feel is what's happening, which I agree and I disagree. Like I said earlier, there's like little parts that kind of pulls you out of that, where like she's kissing Bear and she has her eyes closed, and then all of a sudden she freaks out and opens her eyes. Like, so she wasn't looking in a mirror there, and seeing your reflection in someone's pupils is a stretch. I mean, you can do it, but so I think it's like hit or miss. But in that scene, you specifically hear the mirror smash. So maybe she did that so when she came out, she didn't see her face. I don't know, but I thought that was a really interesting scene too, beyond just the vomit, piss shit, whatever that is on the ground.
That is interesting. If you think about it, it's almost like the wish or whatever she is, even though we say it's not a possession movie, whatever's taking over, right, is also trying to defend itself from letting something make another wish. Or I can't say break a wish, because it's like you can't break it, but almost intervene.
It's like intervening to prevent the real Nikki from being able to come out. That's what it's doing. Because, like,
that's interesting.
I guess because when you make that wish, it's bound to it, and that's why I'm like, it sounds like a demon. But when you make that wish, it's bound to it. It has to fulfill whatever the contract was that was made with the wish, and so that means it has to simultaneously keep the real Nikki at bay, which very creepy.
It's the demon of infatuation.
It makes the most sense.
Gotta be. Yeah. So then they wind up going to the party because, of course, Nikki said, well, Sarah told me that she's going. And so, of course, Bear says, well, if Sarah's going, I guess it'd be okay. And, of course, she shows up, and Ian's just standing at the door like, what the fuck? He brought her here. And it's so awkward. Let's talk about just the beginning of kind of when they're at the party at the beginning, before we really get into what happens in the scene. Think of the setting, though. I feel like everyone's been in a party like that at some point where there's drama in some sort of group and someone's in there. It's almost like a high school homecoming. If it's your freshman homecoming or sophomore homecoming, like the girls are on one side, guys are on the other, but instead it's like a co-ed, but like there's some people talking to each other, some people aren't, some people know drama spreading. They're like, what the fuck's going on? That setting was awkward as fuck. It was one of those where it was like, I was embarrassed for Bear and Nikki not even being them. Like, it was one of those you're like embarrassed to watch because you feel like you're part of the group. Like, you don't even want to be there as just an audience member, fly on the wall.
Yeah, is that maybe the first scene where you have some sympathy for Bear?
I don't really have any sympathy for Bear because he got himself into this shit. You know, you make
Hmm.
your bed, you're gonna lie in it, but
Yeah.
it was a little weird. Like, that was a
Yeah.
little weird. Yeah.
We've definitely all been there. You go to a great party and there's always one person that is either craving the attention of everyone and is just going berserk and going so hard on the alcohol and making a fucking scene, or you get like this, you get some weird relationship drama popping off. So yeah, it's anything with a scene and a bunch of friends and the whole friend group all together, and then shit's about to go south is so awkward because they all kind of like even before shit pops off in the scene, the way that they're acting a little bit is like they know more than they're letting on. Because even in the Jenga scene, dude, like the very first part of that Jenga scene is when the dude draws that one thing and he's like, "Ooh, it says swap with someone." He's like, "Ooh, I'm going to swap and I'm going to sit next to Nikki." I feel like that wasn't just a coincidence that he picked Nikki. I feel like that hinted that maybe they all knew some shit was going on, which also implied that like the whole group knows each other pretty well. So, I think that one move was like I think that guy knew more about the weirdness that was going on between Nikki and Bear, and he was maybe Ian asked him to do it, like to nudge them a little bit, separate them. I don't know. But it was an awkward ass experience, that's for damn sure.
What's weird, even thinking about it, think from the beginning, even when they were kind of all over each other and everything was going well. It reminds me, even like the parties, like everything kind of reminds me of high school and early college in a way, because you always have that one couple that is like probably just got together and you know they're not going to make it and they're all over each other in front
Mm.
of everybody, and it's so fucking weird and awkward. Or
Like
like you
put your
said,
damn
like,
tongues back in your mouth.
yeah, or one of them, like, you know they're not going to make it anyways and they've probably only been together like a month or something, and one of them's instantly like an asshole boyfriend or a crazy girlfriend that's like, I can't believe you were here. Like all this, or treating someone like shit, or someone like comes to the other person's house when that person wasn't even at the party, is like, where's she at, where's she at today? It was like that, man.
Where's
It
she
was
at?
nuts.
Where's she at?
Meanwhile, everyone's there like, clearly these two just don't belong. Like, these two don't belong
You
together,
don't
man.
want to go to a party with your friends and see two people just all over each other the whole fucking party. You're like, this just, why did you come to the party? Did you come to the party just so we could all watch you make out? Like, what the fuck? Like, go, if you're going to do that, go in a room, go somewhere else. No one wants to see that shit.
Anyways, so at this party, we get this crazy scene, right? So they start playing Jenga. And of course, is it Jenga? That's what it kind of
Yeah, it's
looked
like
like to
big
me.
Jenga with
The
blocks, and it has like,
topics.
I've played this one before too. It's pretty fun. It has questions on it, or like it's like dares almost, or like party like rules. You gotta tell a story. You gotta swap places with someone. You gotta take a shot. You gotta do this that. It's like when you pull your block out, you read it, and yeah, it's got something on it.
Crazy. So, of course, Nikki pulls first, right? And she tells this story, this Hansel and Gretel story. And I'm going to read it because I want your interpretation of it before I ask a question about it. And I'm going to give you kind of some theories after I get your interpretation of what this actually means. Because I think the story is kind of, if you look at it, of course, everything can kind of be a stretch with fan theories, but maybe some symbolism on foreshadowing or what's been going on. So Nikki takes the Jenga and speaks softly and quickly. The air was charged by the distant call of the night bird. His face was obscured, but I knew he was looking at my chest. And then she changes her voice to an old woman. Each side stretching recently matured to different sizes. Hansel, come lay with me like the old woman taught us when we were children, I said. Nikki changes her voice back to hers. He closed the door and leaned against it. You're Not my wife, Gretel, he said. I'm more than your wife. I'm your sister. Hansel flinched and reached for the door handle. I knew he would not leave this place. He would relent and choose to be inside me, like he had many nights before. If not, I would flay his meaty forearm, roll it like a stick of licorice, and insert the flesh between my legs. Hansel is my soul. Love only the branch of a willow tree could conjure. Brother, you will be inside me tonight. How fucked up was that, man? Absolutely
Bravo
fucked
on
up.
the reading. Let's go. That was so
Well, that was pretty dead on, right?
Hearing it coming out of your mouth was even more fucked up, but then the
Listen
movie.
to that dramatized recap, everybody. You even get it with the sounds in the background.
Good Lord. Hopefully you have sounds of filleting forearms and rolling up into licorice. Yeah, dude. This story was so it was so disturbing. The story itself was disturbing. Then the fact that she's reading it to this entire group was disturbing and makes you feel secondhand embarrassment out the asshole when she's reading this to a group of her friends at a party, like killing the vibes entirely because the whole entire party goes silent and they're all looking at her like, holy, what is this crap? So I think the story, so a big part of it is that it's an allegory for their entire relationship. It's basically saying that if Bear were to leave, she would kill him. She says, I would fillet his meaty forearm like a fillet and roll it like a stick of licorice and shove it between my legs if he didn't want to be with her. So he was like, she's going to make him be with her one way or another. And she's looking at Bear when she's reading her story and saying, you're my soul and you're my everything and you basically can't leave me. And then she says, Hansel is my soul, a love only the branch of a willow tree could conjure. She says this as though she's looking directly at Bear. She's like reminding him of what he did and how he can never leave her. It's like wish Nikki knows exactly where she comes from and what Bear did, and she's telling everyone at the party, but the story is so freaking nuts, nobody picks up on it, nobody believes it. They're like, this is just some creepy ass story she's been working on. Then she says, brother, you will be inside me tonight. The whole story is an extremely fucked up tale of Hansel and Gretel basically being unwilling incestual partners rather than just brother and sister. It's so disgusting. The control dynamic really flipped on its head in this story. You start out thinking Bear's in control, but you quickly realize that Wish Nikki is very much in control of Bear, and he brought it on himself. But like, I just think it's nuts because like it's Gretel in this story. It's Gretel who's forcing Hansel to have sex with her, which again, you know, that's really the idea of who really has control. And I think the whole symbolism there is that I think the real Nikki may have looked at Bear as like maybe a brotherly type, as a friend. Maybe she thought of him as a brother. And before the Wish Nikki took over, rather than like an actual sexual interest or relationship interest. And so she's telling this entire story, this allegory of how basically the brother and the sister are now together, and now she won't let him leave. So maybe it has something to do with that because like their relationship was very, at least to real Nikki, brother-sister. And she's like, now you made this wish, now you're going to fuck your sister tonight. It's like basically what she's saying in this story. So I just think it's obviously an allegory for the relationship. But then I think it goes, if you want to go beyond that, it's also like a deeper look at their relationship, that they were a friendship. And that's why I think it's really interesting that she chose a story with Hansel and Gretel, brother and sister, to have them be sexual partners when maybe before that's exactly how real Nikki viewed Bear, was more of a brother. And now he's fucking her. And now this story is like, yep, that's basically what's happening here.
I can definitely see that. And you brought up a very interesting mind fuck, I would say, because think about this. Remember when we were talking about that crazy scene of a little bit of essay. This story makes me think of something that rhymes with the word grape. If you can pick that up, I
Hmm.
cannot say the word because of our channels
You've
will
already said
not
it. You're
like
good.
what I say. But if you can pick up the word that rhymes with grape, because as you were saying, as you mentioned, the real Nikki probably saw him as a brother. So if you think of it this way, let's not even think of Wish Nikki for a minute. Think of real Nikki and then Bear. Think of Gretel as Bear, the brother, and Hansel is real Nikki. Well, Bear is kind of saying, brother, you real Nikki, you will be inside me tonight, but opposite sexual things. So it almost even supports more of the whole SA thing, even though Bear kind of like didn't know he was doing that. So that's an interesting point. It's maybe a little bit of a stretch, but it's an interesting full circle foreshadow. Talk about a real Inception mindfuck there. But there are some kind of fan theories here. The foreshadowing behind this is that it mirrors Nikki's psychological aspect in the possible actions she's going to take. So there's a lot of them here, so I'll kind of go through some of them. The first one is the idea that the house lures people in, and Nikki mirrors the candy house. So, in the fairy tale, Hansel and Gretel are drawn toward this beautiful candy house that hides something terrifying inside. So, Nikki, mirroring the house, at first she appears sweet and vulnerable, lonely and harmless, but then Bear lowers his guard because she seems like a safe person, someone that he really likes and has constantly been in love with. So he wants to force himself to love her. And as the story unfolds, however, her true nature is revealed, and the candy house becomes a metaphor for something beautiful on the outside, but was actually dangerous underneath the entire time. So that's
Mm,
interesting.
I like that. I do like that. Who would be the witch in that scenario then?
Mm.
Because like you'd have to you're just removing the witch out of the story entirely. So I feel like in that situation, she's like both, because like maybe the witch is the one wish willow, I guess. Like
Mhm.
it's the wish, and then her body. I guess that's really interesting because it's like the house is the body that we live in. It's a shell that we stay inside of. So like maybe when they enter that shell, it's like, Wish Nikki's taking over the real Nikki's body. So, and then the body's decaying and getting more decrepit once the kids realize that this is not actually a house of candy, it's a house of fucking horrors. So, that's a really interesting fan theory. I do like that one. And it's possible because it kind of does resemble the story of Hansel and Gretel when you think about it in in that way. So, yeah, I like that one. I'm I'm with it. That's a fun one.
And I don't want to be closed minded here and biased, but it makes me think possibly, if going on what you're saying, who's the witch? Bear could possibly be the witch because he got her in that situation. He's
But he
like,
can't be because he's got to be Hansel.
I guess so, yeah.
So that's
Or
why I was
maybe
like, then
someone
who's
else
the
is.
witch?
Maybe the cat's Hansel and Bear's the witch because
Yeah,
he's
gonna
fucking
go
up the
back to
house.
cat fucking again.
That's crazy, man. Who knows? There's definitely some holes in these, but it's an interesting, thought-provoking process. It'll
It's a
definitely.
metaphor.
Mhm.
I mean, it's just it's a creative metaphor, and it makes sense. Like in some that she would be, you could look at her like the house, and that's why she picked that story. But you could also look at it just that she's the witch, not the house, because it's the
Yeah.
same thing. Because the witch is all nice and, oh, come on in, I've got candy and baked goods and stuff. And then once you come in here, I'm going to bake you in the oven. And you're going to realize that this house is not actually made of candy and sweets. So I think I think in that theory, I would be more, I'd understand it more if she was the witch, but like she's also Gretel in the story. She's making herself Gretel. So I think it's a fun one. I could see where they get that, and you could definitely play around with it. Doesn't mean it's the right one, but it's a really fun one, and it's close enough probably.
Yeah, that's a great point, and you actually beat me to it on the next one because the next one is Nikki slowly becomes the witch.
There you
Just
go.
like you said, she transforms from someone who appears helpless, but then into the witch by trapping people emotionally, doesn't want to leave them. She wants to control the people she loves and believes they belong to her. So by the time the film ends, she becomes the very monster the fairy tale warns you about. So that's the second theory there, which you already nailed that one before I even got
Yeah,
to it.
and I did not read that, so I didn't know that. And I do feel that that's more aligned with the story. Hansel and Gretel is such a great story, and it's a really big basis for a lot of horror movies now. I mean, it's like so. Yeah, I could see that one for sure. I would make sense though why she would read the story about Hansel and Gretel when you know the witch character starts sweet and lures the kids in and then turns into the villain. So it does make sense.
So we got four more, so buckle in. We
Let's
got
hear it.
some good ones. So the next one is the forest represents Nikki's mind. So Hansel and Gretel become lost in the woods. And fans have interpreted that the forest is a metaphor for her mental state because as her obsession grows for Bear, she loses her moral compass. Reality and fantasy begin to blur even the essence of time, and she becomes trapped in her own distorted thinking. So instead of finding a path, she travels deeper and deeper into an alternate psychological forest, which could also be reality if you think about it, which goes into a whole nother theory of that 345 time we kind of glossed over just to keep us moving along, but we're going to track back to that later because it kind of relates to this in a way, which is this whole theming of, as Ian said, give it time, whether that's sabotage or not. So the forest could represent Nikki's mind. What's your thoughts? Do you think this is possible, or you think it's a bit of a stretch?
I think that one's a bit of a stretch because they don't even mention the forest in the story in the movie. That's like going deep into the actual story itself and taking out parts of that story that were not included in the movie. That's where I have an issue. I think people go too deep and too far into the woods. No pun intended there. But I think they do go too deep into the woods with some of this stuff and kind of like you start off strong with that first theory and then it just starts to veer further and further away from probably what the reality is. I think keep it simple is really the rule, and especially in writing. So I think in this case, it's like I think it has more to do with the witch and the house. I think those two are fine theories. And like you said, the 3:45 a.m. time is a witching hour time. The witch, Hansel and Gretel, that fits to me much better than this one does, and like a psychological breakdown of Nikki's mind with
Yeah,
the woods. I
I
don't.
agree.
Yeah,
It was definitely a stretch.
yeah.
Here's one that's a little bit more straightforward that I actually can get on board with this one. I can see this being a thing because we kind of already talked about it. It's the theming that home is no longer safe. So the fairy tale portraying the home as safety and the forest as danger, it's flipping the expectation where, based on this fairy tale, the home slowly becomes the most dangerous place in the story, hence Bear's home, because Nikki transforms it into her version of the witch's house. So the place meant to provide comfort, the house that's inviting people in, instead becomes a dangerous prison. So that's an interesting thought.
Yeah, I like that one because I think that does fit here because Nikki seemed to be sort of Bear's safety net a little bit, like in a weird way, because he felt not. I would say Sarah's actually the safety net. She represented safety more than Nikki. Nikki intimidated the shit out of him. As much as he was intimidated by her, he also simultaneously felt some sort of comfort with her. I'm not really sure. His whole situation's kind of strange. That one's a little bit that one makes sense, I guess, in that way. If you just look at it like she's at first she's kind and whatever, and she's giving and like she gives that homeless guy money outside of the bar because that's who she really is, and then she turns into this crazy, obsessive, psychotic, murdering beast. So maybe I don't know that one's decent. That was decent. I think the first two were better.
The other two are even more outlandish, so just to brace you for it. But I can still see it. So,
Mm.
like, you can still see these, but they're definitely stretches. The other one is the oven is actually symbolism, the idea of baking, which I can see this based on what I'm about to say. But
Okay.
so, one of the most famous moments in the fairy tale, Hansel and Gretel, is the witch's death in the oven. Because Obsession repeatedly uses cooking imagery, especially with cooking Sandy and him eating the cat, Bear does with the sandwich, many fans believe this is a parallel. So the oven, symbolizing transformation of love becomes obsession, comfort becomes the horror, nurturing becomes destruction. And although the film never confirms connection, many viewers see this as another layer of symbolic storytelling of dominance. It's a bit of a stretch, but I can see it in a way.
I mean, sure. Like, I think that's
Exactly. I
yeah.
told you it's a bit much. So then the last
Have
one,
fun with it. That's what I gotta say.
if you want to think Nikki, wish Nikki, especially, I can see this one backed up a little bit by kind of the ending. And just to back up a little bit, I was going to let you know one thing I feel like does back up the home is no longer safe with it becoming the prison. Remember, she duct taped the fucking door. So I think that kind of helps back it up because
That's
she wanted him to
yeah.
stay. So,
Yeah. Like he can't escape her no matter where he goes. She is officially his prison. So that I could see that. That makes sense too. I could see that.
so the last one here, if you want to think that Wish Nikki has some sort of innocence involved, this would be the theory for you. Maybe if you think towards the end, after she made that wish, like think about like what's controlling Nikki, whether like the wish, if you want to be on the wish's side or whatever is taking her over for any reason, whether it's the cat that takes her over. It's the idea that Nikki has the mind of a child because some fans believe Nikki tells the fairy tale because she still views the world and her decisions as simplified child logic, as black and white morality. Throughout the movie, she makes the decision she wants to be with Bear without any consideration for others. Her mindset becomes love has only one ending. If someone leaves, make them stay. If someone stands in the way, forcibly remove it. So this subtly reflects how emotionally immature and distorted her reasoning has become, and fans think this matters because it could symbolize that the thing that's actually controlling her isn't necessarily malicious.
See, that one actually makes sense to me in some, well, it not necessarily being malicious. I mean, that's a stretch. But I think the rest of it makes sense because I had actually written some in my notes about this that there's something very childlike in the way that Wish Nikki acts and the way that the things that she says to Bear, like when she first turns into the Wish Nikki, she's like, "Oh, you want to come inside? I did just lose my cat." Like and then like there's a lot of moments in this movie where she's mirroring things that Bear has said and done, like with the no, 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 and like Bear used that in the beginning when he was mourning the cat. There's a lot of mirroring going on, and then there's also a lot of physical mirrors in this entire movie which also could be connected in that way that like she's mirroring other people, she's mirroring what she thinks Bear wants, what she thinks Bear needs. Then when she's acting really childlike when she first turns into Wish Nikki in the beginning, she's like, I'm acting really weird. And she's like, no, no. And then she like runs around the car and it's like all cutesy. And then she's like, mm. And she's just standing there with her arms crossed in front of when she opens up Bear's door in the beginning. He's like, what the fuck? What are you doing? And she just left. She's like, you should come inside. You should really, like, there's some weird stuff. And the stomach bug, when she pisses and shit, she's like, I think I ate a bug or I have a stomach bug. Like she's messing up words. I don't know. It's mind warping for sure. Mine's not human. I think they're letting you know that, but it comes across like an infant learning about the world for the first time. It's like this is some sort of entity that has never been a person, and like now it has a human body. What is it? It's learning from things that Bear is doing and from the world around her. She's like looking and mirroring and mimicking other people, which would explain a lot of things why she's like wearing their clothing and showing up in different clothes that are resembling other characters. There's a connection there. So that one's interesting. That one I could see for sure having some basis in truth.
And a lot of these are stretches, but it's just fun to think about
Oh,
what
they're
people
fun
have
immensely.
come up
Yeah.
with. So then we have this really kind of crazy moment. So she puts it back and she's like, "Oh, that's a piece of my book I'm writing," which, we talked about was more of a love story. Which actually, if you think about that, if it really was, maybe that's her version of a love story, which isn't actually a love story. What do you think about that being a possibility?
Yeah. Well, this scene was really interesting too because I was wondering because she was talking about her book in the car and what she read, she claims is from a book she's working on. I was like, is that can't be the book that real Nikki was working on? There's no fucking way. That had to have been a total Wish Nikki creation. Like she came up with that. So again, that's where I got the thought that maybe it's using what's already in the body and just like enhancing it. So like Nikki's got the creative writing skill, and it's just whatever Wish Nikki is, she's just using that skill now for herself to write her own fucked up allegory. I'm wondering, like, was she writing this book and then she was going to give it to Bear? Like, was that her plan the whole time? I don't know. I wonder. I do really wonder about that story and where the fuck that came from. But because I don't think that was from the real Nikki at all. I think that was all a Wish Nikki creation. And yeah, I don't know. Very strange.
Yeah, I think it had to be, it was an excuse. Because if that was actually a piece of real Nikki's book, if Wish Nikki didn't create it, maybe real Nikki has some psychological issues as
Right.
well.
True.
So,
And like, what if that wasn't even written down? What if she just pulled her phone out and acted like she had something written down and she just came up with that story? Because she starts looking at Bear and she's not even looking at her phone when on some of it. But or like maybe this was a story that Nikki was working on, but then Wish Nikki warped it into this version because they don't show you the screen. You don't get to actually ever see it. So there could have been nothing on there. She could have just made that shit up on the fly, which would be really impressive, not going to lie, but very creative in her mind. So I don't know. It's a very strange story and it comes out of absolutely fucking nowhere.
which is another interesting take too, because I saw a behind the scenes thing where Indy Navarrete was talking with Curry Barker, and they were saying they had the thought that as they were filming these scenes, that real Nikki, even though she was trapped wherever she was, she could kind of see through Wish Nikki's eyes
The
the whole
sunken
time.
place.
So
That's where she
that's
is.
crazy, man. That's some crazy shit. So at this point, we have another moment where, of course, Bear takes the next turn, right, and takes the Jenga piece out, and it says, "Kiss the person to your left." And who's on the left, Kyle?
That would be Sarah.
Exactly. And I think this has a lot of symbolism too. This is almost, I don't want to say it's like a good versus evil thing, but I think it always keeps showing in a pattern of what was meant to be the whole time was always right in front of him. He just chose to keep ignoring it. What's your take on Sari being towards the left of Bear in this game?
Yeah, I mean, we've hinted at this throughout this episode so far, and I'm sure if anyone's watched the movie by now, they've done all the freaking crazy research because there's so much shit out there. But yeah, it does seem like Sarah's always on his left, or at least most of the time, and Nikki's on the right. And so I think a lot of it has to do with like the angel and devil on the shoulder. It's like one of them is probably the light, and one of them is the dark, and which one are you going to listen to? I think that probably there's a little bit of that symbolism going on there for sure. So I thought it was funny that in this moment, though, in this scene, it's of course it had to be Sarah sitting on the left because like no one else. Well, she probably would have freaked out regardless of who it was, but it had to be Sarah in this moment because Sarah is kind of like the biggest threat to Nikki at this point, and I think Nikki knows that. But her being on the left, it's always her on the left, which could be the angelic side. Like that's the side you should really be wanting and going for, but the devil is just so enticing over here. Devil's gonna take her top off in your bed and make you want to get in bed with her. But the angel's over here like, I like you for who you are, and the devil's like, look at my body. So I think it's really funny how that works, but it's brilliant, honestly, brilliant directing and writing.
I think Bear, in a way, though, I think he liked real Nikki more than just her body. I think he had.
Yeah, I'm just making making a
Yeah. Oh
joke
no, I
about it, but
totally
yeah.
get it. I'm just saying. I think it was a combined sense of. Imagine. I think when you saw like the hottest girl in high school or hottest girl in elementary school or middle school when you're a kid, right? I think it's the whole. I think it's the whole penance. That's an interesting word too, because that's almost like a contract thing. Like, what's your penance for this? Of
Punishment.
not punishment, but like almost like a. There's something in his head that it was almost like, hey, I want to get with this girl. Like something kept reminding his head that like something he put there has reminded him that this is what he wants, and he's blocked everything else out.
It was the
So it's
death of his
almost like
grandma.
something. It goes into Inception. That's what they did in Inception. You had to like create consciousness. Well, he's told himself he's wanted this for so long. He's almost fighting with his own mind because when he realizes, in a way, he found out in this one scene we haven't even really talked about yet. They heard in the dramatized recap, but you also mentioned briefly he hears that little voice of real Nikki that she didn't want to be with him. Like you would think that would make the light in your head go off of I don't want this anymore because I wouldn't want someone that doesn't want me back. And he didn't care. He kept going for it because I think he's built it up in his head so much that he's like, this is the goal and nothing's going to stand in my way to get what I want, which is another crazy factor because he is now fighting fire with fire because the Nikki that is there now has become the other side of the coin of Bear is literally what it is. I always love my Game of Thrones quotes. You know, Damon's one side, and you move the D, and you have Aemond, and they're always fighting each other. It's these two that are opposite sides of the coin now, because be careful what you wish for is what just happened. Because now you're getting exactly what you wanted, because you're getting someone that's exactly like you, which is not what relationships usually are. Relationships are something where you have to work at something. If you wanted someone that does exactly everything you want, exactly everything you've been wanting in life, that's not a relationship. Just like you said, that's infatuation. You just wanted something you built up in your head the entire time. And I think that's what
Yep.
Bears come to terms with. And I think he's okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, it really is the idea. It's the he had the fantasy of what it would be like to be with her. He was in love with the idea of her, but not truly in love with her. But I do it. You do wonder though, like if he didn't make that wish and they actually got together, I don't think he would have gotten bored of her because it was truly who she was. But I think you touched on something really big there, is that when you're in a relationship with someone, you kind of want to be challenged. It's boring if that person's always agreeing with you, just saying yes to everything, doing everything that you want. It gets old, it gets boring, and they just want to please you all the time. You're like, my God, do something on your own, be your own person. Like, make up your own mind, stop mirroring what I want, do your own thing. Because I think a healthy relationship is when you challenge each other. And there is zero challenge in this one. Nikki's like, what do you want? I'll do it for you. Whatever you want. But it becomes challenging for other reasons. And the challenges that happen in the relationship are the unhealthy, toxic ones. And that's why this movie is so great at being like a complete metaphor for just toxic codependency.
And I think that full circles back to what we were talking about in the beginning. When everything was going well, remember you have that scene where they were watching a movie together, one of the last scenes
Mhm.
before the date night scene, where she was looking at him and he was just kind of like almost sitting there bored in a way. She
He
was
just
totally
goes like,
infatuated. It was
just turns her head.
let me watch the movie.
Like, stop
so
staring at me. Watch the movie.
I think you're right though. I think Sarah has always been the one for him, and what was truly for him the whole time, he just blatantly chose to ignore out of choice. But we have this moment that was shocking, and I thought it was hysterical and shows how creative you can be in a film. Something that happens here where I think it speaks to also another part of the reason why this movie has been the sixth most profitable horror film of all time with such a low budget was I don't think anyone thought Wish Nikki was gonna go behind Sarah and drag the
Oh,
chair, drags the chair, and then stands in front like a little child with her lips puckered up, just expecting a kiss from Bear. What are your thoughts on this, Kern?
yeah, that shit was just so, it was so embarrassing, dude. It was, everything about that just made my skin crawl. And you see it on Bear's face. Like, that dude's such a good actor because he played Bear so insanely well that you feel the emotion. And that's one of those rare moments where you're like, oh, like you feel bad for Bear only in the sense that you have secondhand embarrassment just from watching this happen. But that's a testament to the acting and the writing. And like you said, there are so many things you can do in that scene. Like she could have just taken a pen and just stabbed her, taken something like just end it there. But this was so much more effective than violence because it was like to your core, you're just like, holy shit, this is Bear's not going, he's stuck. He's not going anywhere. If she would have killed her, you'd be like, yeah, okay, that's typical. But what makes this movie so special is that so many things that happen on screen are not what you usually see in a horror movie. And this was just another one of those where, another example where you're just like, nothing really bad necessarily happened, but it's the context of it that just rips you to pieces.
Crazy. And then it made me think too, though, right before then. I don't know what Bear would have done. I want to know. Do you think he would kiss Sarah? Because in the end, though, if he would, he's really still showing how bad of a person he is
Hmm.
because he is in a relationship. He's the one forcing the relationship. This is an agreed relationship because of him. So you're telling me he would have just straight up cheated on her right in front of
Oh
her?
yeah, 100%.
Sick.
He would
He
have
is sick.
100%. He had that smirk. He got that smile on his face when he's like it was like a kid with a crush when they're playing spin the bottle, and he's like, "Oh, I get a chance to kiss my crush." That's what it looked like, and it was really like a shy, sheepish smile, but he was excited, and it just makes Barry even more of a bastard because he makes this wish, he gets what he wants, even though it's much more than he bargained for, but then he still is gonna go cheat. Like he is his character flaws are through the roof, and that's why it's funny because like what I was saying earlier is again I'm not defending Bear. I think he's garbage and he makes horrible. His character, like you said, his moral character is awful. He just makes very horrible human choices. What I was saying was like it's not that I sympathize with the guy. It's just if you put yourself in his shoes, how many of you can say that you would make a different, like legitimately believe that you would make different choices? Because as the guy on the customer service line said, like that wish is stuck until you die. Like you could just kill yourself. How many people would just be like, yeah, I'll just kill myself to end it and save her? I mean, realistically, would you have the stones to do that? So I think that I think he would have kissed her, and I think that if he did, that's like who he should have been with in the first place. But he's so fucking stupid. Like, can't you tell that something's wrong with Nikki? Obviously, it's not her. So, like, even if you feel that way for Sarah, why would you show that? Like, why would you openly show that in front of her that there could be feelings there? Because then you're just going to set the crazy off in Nikki, and you know that's going to happen. So, like, it just compounds his bad decision after bad decision after bad. He can't control himself either. he's like similar to Nikki. His impulse control is just ass. So yeah, dude, I don't just this whole scene is amazing, but it's so embarrassing.
And
And
let's
I
play
think he's a
just
cheating
a
bitch.
yeah, and let's play just a little what if for 1 second. If he did kiss her right in front of Nikki, would Nikki had killed him, or do you think
No.
wish Nikki wants him so bad she would have accepted it?
So I'll save that for a little bit later, like my full answer on that a little bit later. But I do think that if he would have kissed Sarah, if he would have kissed Sarah and she let him do it, I think she would have killed Sarah immediately. I don't think she would have survived the night. But because Sarah was smart and she smiled and she looked over, but she didn't do anything, and Bear didn't do anything, there was no reason to necessarily kill her. But it was like, I'm going to assert dominance and I'm going to stand behind you and make you freak out and think I'm going to hurt you. But then I'm just going to move you out of the way. I think that's even scarier than her being violent. But also,
Yeah, I think it's a great take. So then at this point, everyone's looking at her and the room is so silent. You can hear a pin drop. Like it's just quiet. And this is where you have that famous moment where she says, "Come on, everyone. It's a joke. It's a joke. Come on. I was just kidding. It's a joke." And she hits, I think it was Ian on the sidearm or whatever. And then she's like, "Fine. I'm not kidding. Deal with it." And everyone's just staring at her. And think about this moment too. Ian just looks so defeated. And knowing what we know, imagine how shitty he felt, like a piece of shit. And he says, "Nikki, are you okay?" And the boy looked like he was about to break down and cry. Did you see that?
you're talking about Bear or
I'm
Ian?
talking about Ian.
Okay. Yeah, Ian just looked like, fuck me. Like, this is what I was trying to avoid in the first place. I don't want this shit happening at my party. Yeah, I don't know. Because she's like, she says, everyone in this room will die if they do not feel the strength of
Yeah.
connection that I feel with my bear. And then she says, oh, like you said, I'm just kidding. It's all a joke. It's just a joke. And it's like, yeah, okay. After you just read that fucked up Hansel and Gretel story, then pulled Sarah out the way, then you say that shit. It's all a joke. I'm just kidding. It's a bit. So Ian is just like, dear God, what is going on? But I think Ian's also genuinely concerned because he's shown he's on Team Nikki. Like he's concerned about her, and Sarah's concerned about Bear, like we established. So I think he's genuinely worried about her in this moment, but he's also like, what the fuck? Why would you do this at our party? Like at my party, at my house, you're ruining it. And this is exactly what I wanted to avoid.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I think deep down, Ian also has, knowing what we know, maybe also kind of cried himself to sleep that night, which is also why I think he kept calling Bear, because I think he's also not really a good person either. So I think knowing what we know, maybe he's like, I can't believe this is happening at my party, and the girl that I thought liked me is over here fucking my
I
best
don't know. I
friend I
think it's
tried to
like I think it's
betray.
that on top of like I think it's that, but it's also him just being like this. I can't believe this is happening because it makes no sense. Because like Nikki before was talking about how Bear was just like a friend, a really good friend to her, and now they're all over each other, and then Nikki's suddenly going like nutty and doing all this weird shit. I think he's just as confused as everyone else is. As much as I don't think Ian is like the greatest person, I don't think he's the villain, but I don't think he's like the best friend in the world to Bear, maybe to Nikki, but he cares about Nikki. Obviously, he's been hooking up with her for a while, so I don't know.
But we have this big moment here. So Nikki snaps back into herself for a second, and she's screaming, "She's got me! She's got me!" And she picks up a bottle and smashes it on the table and smashes it into her forehead over and over and over. And everyone in the room is screaming at Bear, "Go help her! Go help Nikki!" And they're wondering what's going on. A few different questions about this. Did Nikki see her reflection, which caused her to snap back into herself? Was it a reflection from the TV, you think, that was in the room? And was she trying to kill herself with the broken wine bottle? And why did Bear just sit there and stare? I think that also goes back into his moral compass.
Maybe. I'll answer them. I'll try to go through in order. So do I think that she saw a reflection? I don't think she saw it on the TV because wasn't the TV behind her when she was standing? So
Yeah, I think
it
it was
couldn't have been
behind her.
TV. If she saw a reflection, it would maybe be in a bottle, but like that's a stretch too because at the angle she was standing, I mean, what bottle would she be looking at? The bottles were on the table. She's that far away, and they're darker bottles. I don't know. I don't know if I believe that one. That's why I'm like, that theory is hit or miss with me because I don't know what would be over near Bear that she would have really seen. I mean, I guess Bear had the beer in his hand, but even so, it's like if she saw her reflection, have you ever seen your reflection in a beer bottle? It's like muddy mess. You wouldn't even really see your face, but I guess that doesn't matter. Like if it's a really clear image or not. I don't know. That theory, I think it makes sense, but it also doesn't. And I think it's probably what it is, but then there's like some holes in the movie where it doesn't really fit. Who the fuck knows? But I think that's possible. Then you said, was she trying to kill herself with the bottle?
With the bottle, because she was
Yeah.
stabbing it on her head.
Oh, 100% I think she was trying to kill herself. It was either trying to kill herself or trying to like to draw people's attention, like help me, like a call for help. Because I think if she was trying to kill herself, she would have gone in her neck, but she hit herself in the head where like your skull's there. You're not going to kill yourself unless you puncture your eye and just bleed out. But like the where she was hitting, it's not really, I wouldn't say it's deadly necessarily compared to if she just punctured her throat. So like you could say maybe she was, maybe she wasn't. Maybe it was just a call for attention. But like obviously a lot of things are unanswered. It's kind of left up to the audience to determine what do you think. And I like that because then it leads to a lot of fan discussion. That's why this movie's been in the conversation for so long because he hasn't answered anything, and I don't think he ever will. And I don't think he should personally. But yeah, I mean, it's just crazy. Go ahead.
And just one thought on what you said in that moment too, when she was stabbing herself. And this is the clip art from our traumatized recap. You can see her face. She's like kind of looking around with the big mouth. And it almost seemed as if when she stabbed it, it's almost like she faded back in for a second and wished
Yeah.
Nikki took over. Almost like she liked it. Like, keep on stabbing me, bitch, because you're not coming out.
Because
So
she
it was
smiled.
weird.
As like when she was done, the blood's pouring out, and she's like looking around the room with that creepy ass smile as the blood's coming down her face. I think you're probably right. I think she might have in that moment smashed it and then went to kill herself and wished Nikki was like, no, we're gonna hit ourselves in the face instead, possibly instead of in the neck. So I don't know. That's a good point for sure. And the last question was why do I think Bear sat there in the chair and did nothing? I think because he knows what's happening entirely, and maybe a part of him just didn't give a shit if she killed herself at this point because he's like, good, free me from the wish. I also think he's so defeated by all of this shit at this point that he just doesn't care what happens. It's like a situation where someone is so used to their partner either like verbally abusing them or doing some embarrassing shit whenever they go out to get attention that the other person in that relationship is so defeated by that point that they just literally give up and just sit there and do nothing and just take it. When everyone else is like acting shocked by the behavior, they're just sitting there like, this is another fucking Tuesday for me. Like and they just don't have the energy to fight back anymore. And in his mind, he's like, shit, here we go again. He's like, it's just another day, another dollar. He's just ready to get the fuck out of this wish, I think. I think he's had enough, and he's like, I'm not even going to fight it. And he also probably just feels like, I know he's not surprised by it at all, but I think internally he's also feeling so embarrassed and guilty at the same time that it's almost paralyzing him. But I think mostly it's just he's like, oh my God, here we go again with this crazy shit. I'm tired of it. I don't want to fight it. And I'm just going to sit here. If she dies, she dies. Because like no one else in that room has seen her do that stuff. Only Bear.
That's a great point too. I think it's kind of if you're in a situation that you hate, the living situation or people hate their job, whatever it is, but they know they just have to accept it. And they're just, whatever happens, happens, man. And in a way, I
Mhm.
think he was almost hoping she would end it
I
right
think so.
there.
I
Yeah.
think he was just like defeated. He just said, just end it.
Yeah.
Because like he's too much of a coward at this point, too selfish to do it himself. So he's probably hoping.
And I think that is proven at the end when we'll get to. Remember what I was saying a few episodes ago? Like a boss, pussy out. That's
Bitching out, yeah.
Bear's biggest. That's who Bear is.
Yeah. It's true. He proves it through the whole movie. I mean, he's Nikki opens the opportunity for him to tell him how he feels, and like, do you like me? What? No, I don't like you. Like asshole. If he would have said it, I think they would have been together. But he's a coward.
After the party, Bear is driving her to the hospital, and you notice it almost looks like she's still drunk or on drugs because, like, the
She's like
wish Nikki
dancing.
is taking over, and they get her out at the hospital, and I guess they wouldn't really take her in at first because she was like dancing in the parking lot. That part was crazy.
Yeah, I think they thought they're like, it's obviously not emergent. She'll be fine. And like, look at her. She's like dancing and acting crazy. They were probably like, no, we're good. Like, I don't see anything necessarily emergent. But I'm like, really? She stuck a shattered fucking bottle into her face. You would think she'd have massive gashes on her face, which she did. But like, the emergency room was like, no, we're good. We got enough crazy here tonight. So, and he's like fighting with her, which is weird. That scene was confusing to me, but because like I don't know why the emergency room wouldn't take her, and he's like fighting with them to take her, and she's just dancing in the street like the Joker dancing down the stairs. Weird. It's a weird scene for sure.
When she gets home, too, it reminded me of when the kid gets called into the principal's office or when, kids are in trouble with their parents. They're sitting at the kitchen table and Bear's upset about the night and Nikki continues to apologize. And she's like, I'm so, 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 so sorry. I love you. I can be Nikki. He's telling her, you're not the real Nikki. But she's like, I can be Nikki. So, one, what'd you think about almost like he's dominating her or something, if you think about it? It's almost like, I told you not to go out with your friends. We don't do that here. Don't you be acting up and embarrassing me. And then at the same time, do you think the wish is a real entity that actually loves Bear? Or is it just trying to be what Bear wants in this situation and isn't being what Bear wants, which is why she keeps apologizing over and over?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just I don't think the whatever the wish Nikki is in there, I don't think actually loves Bear, but I think it is embodying infatuation, and it is saying love, but I don't think it knows, like you said, I don't think whatever's in there really knows what true love is. And so, and it's not supposed to because it's not a natural human entity. It's like some sort of supernatural inhuman thing that's happened to her. So no, I do not think that it actually loves Bear. I think it's just trying to be whatever Bear wants. And you can see this with like the connection with the clothing. And like when she's wearing the same outfit that the waitress is wearing in the first scene, that's not a coincidence. That's like because that girl really responded well and she said, "Oh my god, I love like that was amazing. That was so beautiful. That was so sweet." When Bear opens up and like that's maybe what Bear really wanted because when Bear was pouring his heart out, he was really truly romantic and had nice things to say about Nikki. And so like maybe she in her mind she's like I'm just going to dress like that waitress. I'm going to dress like you. I'm going to be wearing your clothing all the time. Like she's always wearing his clothes and his sweaters and stuff like that. So I think it's more of she just is trying to be whatever Bear wants her to be. What he really wants her to be is the one thing that she can't be because she isn't and because she's got that buried, wherever in hell or something else. He wants her to be the real Nikki, and that's the one thing she can't be.
I agree with you to an extent. I think Wish Nikki wants to be what Bear wants her to be, but I also really think she loves Bear. I think the Wish is kind of loves Bear. And I think if you look at the Wish from an outside perspective of the toy, I think the Wish always wants to be what you want it to be because it wants to have great customer service, which comes into what we talked about before, which is an interesting thought process. It's just because think about it, any toy product wants to have a good customer satisfaction rate. But they really don't do that. They don't do cancel requests, can't alter a wish, as we talked about before. So if we look at Wish Nikki, I think Wish Nikki wants to be everything Bear wants, but I think the Wish actually wants to love Bear, which goes into the very end of it that we'll get into much later on. I think it's wanting to love Bear, but it's almost like not even possible. But I think it is starting to love Bear because it's its own infatuation with Bear, is why. So there's no real love, but to each of them, in a way, Bear more towards the beginning, Wish Nikki now towards the end, truly loves Bear, but she loves what she wants in Bear. Does that make sense?
You're saying exactly what I said. So you agree with me that it's not real love. She doesn't actually love Bear. She is made to love Bear. Like, it's not that she actually has those feelings for Bear. It's that she was literally created to love Bear. So it's not real. It's all a wish. It's fake. It's
I don't think
manufactured
she's
love.
a real person. Like I think I think the wish is taking over her. So I
Right.
think it's the toy. But I think the toy does think of this. You got to think really outside the box here. I think the
I'm
toy
trying.
does actually have feelings for Bear because it's assigned to Bear because it wants to bring joy to whoever it is. It's just not turning out the way he wants it. Does that make sense? So
Yeah,
I think
that's
her feelings are actually coming out for him because she's going to all these extended lengths to make him happy. It's just not the way he wanted it to be.
right. So then, is it real? Is it real love? Does it actually love him? I don't think so, and I think there's clear evidence of that towards the end as well, and throughout when it's constantly the Wish Nikki is constantly saying things about the wish, a love only a wish from a willow tree could conjure. Like she's openly saying these things about the wish, like saying you did this, you wanted this, so I'm giving you all the love that you said you wanted. But it's not real. It's not actual love. The Wish Nikki doesn't actually love him. It's presenting love. It's not actual love. It's manufactured. This is like if you bought a toy, it was specifically designed to do one thing, and it does that one thing really well. Are those feelings real? No, it was manufactured to do that. So I think that's where like we differ is that I don't think it's real. I don't think that the Wish Nikki really loves him. And I think that it's doing everything that Bear wanted it to do because that's what it thinks is love. Like, I'm going to do everything that you want because it was designed to love that way. I'm going to give you everything that you wanted because that's what you wish for. But it doesn't know what real love is. And they're telling you this and throughout the story, even when they talk about the book in the earlier scene. I keep going back to that because that's like critical is that like Bear doesn't know the difference between romance and love, but real Nikki does. And then Wish Nikki doesn't know the difference between romance and love. So like they're kind of flipping roles here where I think that in the Wish Nikki version she doesn't it's not real love. It's like she was made to do that and to present those feelings and those things that look like love, but it's not real. It's like torment. It's like a demon torturing him with love. It's like a full fucking love bomb in a person is basically what the way that I see it.
Yeah, I understand that, but I'm not trying to convince you here.
No, I'm just
But
giving you like we're pretty similar is what I'm saying. Like I
yeah,
think we're on the same page, just using different words.
I think it's slightly different for me though, because I think the demon or whatever it is actually starting to fall in love with him. Think about, even though it's just showing these feelings, but I think it's falling in love with the idea that she wants for him, not actually him, but whatever's there, which is why she's going through these great lengths. And think of that sentence for a minute. Only the love that the branch of the willow tree could conjure. If you look at her like the willow tree, is she actually conjuring love? It's Bear that can't conjure the love. It's her that can conjure it, and she's conjuring it for him. So maybe it even goes back into that Hansel and Gretel story. Maybe she loves him like the brother. Like maybe she's even loving him like the brother, like the real Nikki, where she actually does love him and wants things to be right for him, which is why she's totally infatuated. So I
I
think
think she's like
it's
a
crazy.
succubus.
Yeah,
It's
I think it will fuck with your mind is what I think
I
it
think it
does, but
I think she's like a succubus demon. Like I'm going to love you to death, but it's not real. It's not love in the sense, in like the true definition that we would say love is. It's using love as a weapon to literally make someone go insane intentionally. And that's why I'm like, I don't think it's true. I don't think it's real love. And it makes me think, like, okay, why would this thing be so obsessed with its goal to love Bear? Well, what happens if it doesn't? Is it going to get punished, and whatever it is it going to get punished and put into its own sort of like prison if it doesn't do its job well? Or is it like I was saying, it's literally manufactured to do one thing, and it's manufacture the appearance of love, and it's literally its entire job, its existence is to do that. And if it's not receiving that love in return, it feels like it's failing. And we see that show up in later scenes here, where like it's it's protecting Bear, and it's like protecting Bear from the real Nikki, and which I have theories on that, but I don't think it's real. That's all.
yeah,
It's not
and one last thing on this, I think is the biggest deep dive we've ever done on
on
an
anything.
episode because it just totally can mind screw you. But think about it from the perspective of this goes back to the whole idea of we were talking about that Hansel and Gretel story fan theory of the house as a prison. I wonder if it wants to love Bear so much, like you said, it wants to keep it there as a prison. Like, what would happen to Bear? He would be kept there and tortured, like the real Nikki, which makes me think that
That's what I'm
Wish
saying.
Nikki, and this is going to be a bit of a stretch here with a bridge, but I'm going to explain both. Wish Nikki possibly could be also what that Satan or voice is on the other end. We know the voice is Curry Barker, but whatever that character was supposed to represent, it could all be just one big entity, right? Of the wish, which is where
Possible.
real Nikki is. Maybe it loves Nikki, the real Nikki, so much too that it wants to keep her there as a prison, which goes back to the scene we just had, is
That's
it
a weird
didn't want
one.
to let her out. So it loves Bear the exact same because this is the thing. And like you said, I agree with you entirely. This isn't the love we're talking about, but it's now not understanding why Bear's not happy about what it's done because its version of love is totally different. Like, I love, 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 love you because it's
Perverted.
loving you as something that I love you so much, I never want to let you go ever. And you're going to be
Right.
fucking trapped here and tortured in hell. Isn't that fucking
Well,
nuts?
that's why it's like, that's why I say I think whatever this entity is, it's a succubus. It loves, but it's taking. It's not giving. It's pretending to love, but it's not giving anything really. It's making your life worse. You should read. Have you ever read the Screw Tape letters? The
Oh
Rogan.
yeah, those were good back in the day. Where it's that demon that was haunting that boy.
Well,
Damn,
it's
I
just a
read this when
book.
I was
It's
like
a
a
book
kid.
about a demon who
He
is,
wrote it through letters, and he was like haunting this boy, right?
well, not just, he's just learning, yeah, he's learning how to mess with humans. And he's writing letters to the devil or like to an elder demon who's experienced, and they're communicating, how do you mess with human minds? And I say that this is a very similar situation as something that you would find in the screw tape letters. Like the demon would be writing back and saying, how do I really screw this person up? Well, love them so much that they want to rip their own arms off to get away from you, because you're just like, you love them and you love them and you love them and you love them, in quotes there, so hard that it is an absolute bomb to their soul and they can't take it anymore and they want to end their own life. And that's why I say it's like a demonic entity, whatever it is, but it's not giving and it's not loving. It is using love as a weapon to torment the shit out of Bear because he made this wish. And it's giving him what he wanted, but it's giving him what he wanted in a way that is demonic and psychotic. Like it's more than what he bargained for on purpose, because he's getting punished. He made a wish, but the wish obviously has the potential to fuck you. But we've also seen it has the potential to work for you really well. You just have to be, I guess, clear about how you ask your wishes. So it's a very crazy scene. It's just a crazy concept, and it's not getting explained. I don't think it ever will, but I think that's the fun part of it. But I don't think it's real. I just think of screw tape letters. I think it's like this demon, whatever it is torturing him.
Yeah. No, I think so too. And that makes me think of like Elizabeth Hurley from Bedazzled with the phrase.
Yeah.
Like just, I'm the devil. All right, you naughty boys.
Right.
Keeps coming up with these wishes that go wrong.
Yeah.
Crazy, man.
That's
So
the point.
this next moment is really big though. So we got to talk about this. Nikki's in the bed with Bear, and Wish Nikki is like sleeping for a minute, and she's kind of like laying on her back here, which is kind of weird. But you
On her
hear this
stomach.
small
Yeah.
voice, right? As Wish Nikki is sleeping and Bear gets up, she asks Bear to kill her, which we now know is the real Nikki. And at this point, this is when we have this really kind of evil moment of Bear we were talking about. She keeps saying, "Kill me, Bear, kill me." And he says, "What's so wrong about being with me?" And she says, "I've never been with you, Bear," which almost goes back to that whole SA thing or whatever, right? But he says, once again, that I just mentioned, "What's so wrong about being with me?" And he leaves like an asshole after Sarah's been texting him saying, "Hey, I need to see you." And he was like, "I can't leave." And she says, "If you don't come see me, I'm coming over there." So he chooses to leave. But as Nikki's screaming, the real Nikki, not screaming, but saying it as loud as she can in the whisper voice, because Wish Nikki is asleep, to kill her because she just wants out of this situation, Bear just leaves, which really shows what an awful person he is. What should Bear have done, in your opinion? Of course, we know the obvious answer, but really dig deep on this. And why do you think Bear chooses to stay with Wish Nikki? And has Bear always been this evil moral compass character? Has this been foreshadowed from the beginning?
Yeah, I mean, before we even dive into this too, I want to go back because we jumped over the scene where Wish Nikki, after they're having that conversation, I just want you to be normal, Nikki, that she goes into the kitchen and gets a knife. And then she threatens basically that she's going to kill herself in a very graphically disturbing manner, that she is talking about how she'll just slowly start to feel cold, and then her arms will go numb, and then her legs will go numb, and then she'll slowly drift off into darkness. And it's just really, it's emotional manipulation. But when she pulls that knife and Bear starts freaking out and scrambling backwards, then out of nowhere, like, Nikki charges at Bear with the knife, and then she freezes, and then we get that really weird ass creepy reverse walk that she does back into the kitchen with the knife in her hand, and she steps back into the shadows, and Bear's like, "Oh, are you going to kill me?" She's like, "I would never hurt you, Bear." in that moment, I think that was real Nikki coming out trying to kill Bear. And this is Wish Nikki protecting Bear. As Wish Nikki continues to do through this whole movie, is that you could see it. There's scenes where it looks like whenever the real Nikki comes out, she's freaking out, but then Wish Nikki takes over and tries to calm and remedy the situation. In this one, I think it was real Nikki came out, tried to kill Bear with that knife, and then Wish Nikki took it and reversed back up into the kitchen, like getting away from. And she says, "I would never hurt you." And I believe her. I believe Wish Nikki would never hurt him because if she lost him, then she goes away. She no longer lives. She no longer exists, the Wish Nikki, whatever it is. So then we get into this thing, yeah, when Nikki's asleep. And this scene is so fucked up because Nikki's begging for Bear to kill her. And Bear's just like, is being with me so really so bad? He just fucking turns and leaves. So at this point, he's fully embracing the villain role. I think he sees it as like there's no going back at this point. So he's just leaning all the way the fuck in now. I mean, there's nothing he can do. He can't escape it. He literally can't cancel the wish. He can't alter the wish. We found that out already unless he dies. So he's just kind of getting what he wants from the situation while still trying to pretend like it's normal. It's hard. He's kind of like, fuck, what else am I going to do? And I've already made one shit decision that led to another shit decision. That's what happens to our brains. Like you make a bad choice, it can domino into a million other spirals. And so I think he's kind of just spiraling and making bad choice, bad choice, bad choice, which he's proven he's done this throughout the whole movie. So it's hard to say what Bear like should have done in that scenario. And this is where I go back to putting yourself in this situation. Would you actually be able to kill that girl that you're in love with? Like, he's been obsessed with her, in love with her for a long time, apparently. Like, even if she asked you to do it to save her, could you actually muster that strength to do it in this scenario? And like, I don't think it's as easy as we, the people just watching, make it out to be. Like from our perspective, we're all screaming at the screen like, kill her, kill her, just save her, kill her to save her. But who could really do that if they were in that scenario? I mean, honestly. And I put that same thing on Bear, like having to kill himself to end the wish. It's not so easy. Like if you're the one who has to do it instead of just watching, I don't know that many of us would have the strength to really do that. Like you look at the girl that you love, you're just gonna, she's asking you to do it, but are you actually gonna be able to do that? I don't know. And I don't think Bear was always evil. Like I think he was just a weird dude with a hardcore crush that made him do stupid shit. However, like, cause also like no one would have, expected that wish to work. However, like I say that with a huge caveat because Bear's actions after realizing that the wish worked are not exactly those of someone with high character, but it does sort of make you wonder. Do you think like if Bear could go back, knowing what he knows now about the One Wish Willow, do you think he would make that wish again? That he would still ask for Nikki to love him? Would he do it all over again, but maybe like word it differently based on what you know? Like, what do you think he would do it again?
I hate to answer it this way, but I think he would, just based on this scene alone. And I think
Yeah.
he's so, the word is obsessed with what he wants. He'll stop at nothing. Unfortunately, it's kind of one of those things, I think, in a way. I think in the beginning we feel sorry for Bear as people because people, this is a very localized story. And I think a lot of us have probably known somebody with characteristics similar to Bear in just by people we knew growing up. Maybe we would run into people that would be that harsh, but everyone that I can think come to mind would never go as far as he did. I mean, I think he was in the end, I think he would still make the same decision because in a way, I think he going back to the beginning, I think he was so depressed and lonely. He just wanted something that he set his eyes on for the whole time and wasn't going to stop until he had something. is kind of what I think it was. I think he just kind of locked in on something he wanted. I think, unfortunately, actions speak louder than words. If he had stopped what he did there, if he said, and I think a real moral person wouldn't be like, not going to kill you, but Nikki, like, how can I save you? What I can do? I'm so sorry. Even in the beginning, he was like, I wouldn't want you to do something you wouldn't want to do, stuff like that. Remember when Nikki wished Nikki kissed him, and then she snapped back and that sort of thing. So you would think he would do that, try to find out more answers, and he's just like, he's more so upset that the wish he made where he only gets one wish got fucked up versus actually caring for someone that we were thinking to believe maybe he did actually have a true crush because he saw this person as a girl that was not just someone he found attractive, but someone you thought was like his best friend in the group, which really turns out to be Sarah. So in the end, I think he would still make the same decision because Bear's a piece of shit. I'll say it again.
Yeah. I mean, I feel the same way. Just based on his actions, it seems like he would. He tried to adjust the wish at one point. He wasn't necessarily trying to cancel it. He was just trying to adjust it. So maybe the result wasn't as extreme. So I think that based on that and everything you said, if he could do it again, I think he would. And so does that mean that he was always evil? Or was he just blinded by his own infatuation for Nikki? I don't know. I don't think he was necessarily evil, but his actions along the way, like you said, a normal person would probably be like, oh my God, what did I do? I didn't know this was real. I didn't think this was real. How can I help you? He's just like, nah, fuck it. I'm diving in. I'm choosing to ignore that my wish could have worked and it really messed you up. It's blissful ignorance a little bit going on here.
Who would never want to rob a bank with that kid either? He'd be the first one to be like, sorry, man. They caught you. I'm not coming back for your ass.
You never know. One. Love makes people do crazy shit. And I think that's another theme of this movie. So I don't know.
Thanks for tuning in to part 2 of the Obsession commentary and tuning in to Talk Fantasy to Me podcast, a ridiculous production. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. It really helps us reach more listeners like you. Don't forget to like and follow us on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok at Ridiculous Productions for show updates and more content. Talk to you next time.